The thing that I tell them is to focus on the dollar productive activities, and you need to be able to free yourself up and create a schedule and a plan to focus on the one thing that is guaranteed to grow your business, which is sales. And when it comes to sales, people sometimes think of sales as a dirty word, and I want you to replace the word sales with adding value. And to me, sales and adding value are on opposite sides of the same coin, right? So if you replace that with how can you add as much value as you possibly can to your prospects, clients, referral partners, then this is going to go a long way to helping you with sales. So this video today is talking about how you can prospect like a pro and how you can really focus on these dollar productive activities within your business, because there's a reason that sales is at the top of your profit and loss. The reason that sales is at the top of your profit and loss because it's the most important activity in any profitable business. And the definition of business is a profitable entity, right? So if we want to make our business a proper business and a profitable entity, we need to focus on the top line revenue. We need to focus on the sales, and we need to set the systems and processes in our business to allow us to have the time to focus on selling. Because I can guarantee you, if you focus on selling within your business, you will double your business. And so if we look at it, how you go about prospecting like a pro and why would you want to prospect like a pro? So if we look at, a lot of businesses are a bit like this. If we look in their back office, they're wondering where their next deal is coming from. They might have a really good month. I call it the roller coaster of sales, where they wonder where the next deal is coming from. And, it's a bit like juggling. They're focused on it while they've got the deals in their hand. But when they get busy, these activities are the first things that get dropped. And so how can we make it more consistent? How can we find time to really do these activities day in, day out? Because what we really want within our business is we want that full pipeline. We want that overflowing business. And the benefit of having that full pipeline is you get to pick and choose your ideal clients. We don't need to waste time on the 50-50 deals. We can focus on those deals that we really enjoy and the type of clients that we really want to be able to deal with. It allows us to qualify our clients up front and only to say yes to the ones that we really want to deal with. I remember, back in training, when I was looking at this stuff, one of my coaches said, you want to deal with clients that are a hell yes. And they're either a hell yes or they're a no. And having a full pipeline of business allows us to really define our ideal clients and the ones that we want to say yes to. So by having a planned schedule of the activities that we want to do, knowing it and having it structured amongst us and our sales team, and sometimes people will outsource it, will ensure that you've got that full pipeline. One of my clients, and it's in the top 20 brokers in the country, and one of the things that she does really, really well is she will every day between 8 and 9 a.m, and she's presented to our group on this, is she will make calls, right? She'll make calls to her pipeline clients, so at all the milestones. She'll make calls to her prospects, so anyone who's inquired, and she'll make calls to her existing clients. And she has amazing retention. She settles amazing levels of business that put her within the top 10 or top 20 brokers within the country. And she still makes time to do this day in, day out. right? So if the top broker writing close to 100 applications a month has the chance, the time to do this and sees the value in doing this, it's something that you need to really look at as well. Because if you look at the business that we're really in, right, what business are we really in? We're in the business of relationships. We're in the business of building relationships. And how we build relationships, and the best way to build relationships, yes, if we can do it face to face, yes, that's great. But the second best way is doing it via the phone, because we get that backwards and forwards, we get tone, we get to hear so much and ask questions and have that live interaction, right? So we're in the business of building relationships, and the best way to build relationships is to talk to our clients. One of my other mentors, Todd Duncan, used to say, if you want to have a relationship with your clients for a lifetime, you've got to talk to them during their lifetime. So we're in the business of relationships. So let's work on how we can, foster them. Because, what I said is, if you look at your business and it's more around like farming, right? It's more like farming because you're planting the seeds, and then much like the people in this photo, they're tending to the crops, and your relationship with your clients and your prospects is around that. And to get the fruit, we need to be able to add value. So whether this is to a prospect, whether this is to an existing client or a referral partner, you've got to think of how can you be the most valuable person to them, so the likelihood of them doing business with you is great. And this is really what sales comes down to, as I mentioned. It's really down to how much value you can add, because you get paid for the value that you provide on the planet. So in terms of when we're looking at the structure and we're looking at who are you going to call? And again, we've mentioned a couple of the different areas that you're going to look in terms of who you're going to call. In terms of, similar to Ghostbusters, who you're going to call. You're going to look at calling your prospects. You're going to look at calling your hottest prospects, which are your pre-approvals. You're going to look at making networking calls, both external to referral partners and internal, because you want to win business, and so you need to have good relationships with your lenders and state managers, relationship managers, etc., because you want to understand how to get a deal done and have a relationship if you need a favor to be able to do that. Then we're also going to look at obviously your existing clients and doing annual reviews and so forth. We'll go a little bit more into that. In terms of, to make it easy to pick up the phone and to decide in terms of who we're going to call and to make the process as seamless as possible, you want to have an idea of what you're going to say. So a basic script, and again, much like a singer may sing a song 1,000 times, when they sing that song, it still sounds authentic and personal to them. So you've got to have an intention in terms of the value and what you want to provide to them on the call. So you've got to understand, what are some of the questions and what are some of the objectives that you want. So the easiest way to do that, and for you and your sales team, is to understand what you're going to say on that call. The next thing, it comes down to that commitment and discipline. Somebody like Desley does it day in, day out, and she's committed, and she'll even admit to you there's some days she doesn't feel like doing it. But business is about doing those boring things and doing them over and over again until they become habit. As I mentioned in my last video around mindset, we've got to create the habits, and once you've created the habit, it becomes unconscious. It becomes easy for you to do. So we've got to focus and have that, real commitment and discipline in terms of what we're doing in our business. So then it comes down to having a look at it, right? Well, let's have a look at it in terms of, the actual structure. And if we look at it in terms of the structure, in terms of if we have a look at it, right? So what we want to make is we want to make a sale. So that sort of sits in the middle. We want to make a sale, but it's not as easy as just sort of picking up the phone. We've got to have some structure around it, right? So we need to understand what our structure is going to be, because as James Clear says in Atomic Habits, we don't we don't rise to our goals, we fall to the level of our habits. So we've got to have structure, right? So we've got to look at it, and so we've got to, we've got to have create the discipline or the habit. 2, we've got to schedule it, right? So there's got to be some sort of trigger, right? So it's got to be scheduled. So we've got to have the discipline. It's got to be, then we've got to be able to have a way that we actually track it, right? So some of you may use a CRM, some of you may use an old school, more of a manual system, whether it's a book or a client list or an Excel document. We need, as we mentioned, we need the scripts. In my program, I provide the scripts in terms of everything that you need to say to make this as easy as possible, right? So then from that we obviously need the list of people that we're actually going to call in those different areas. We need to have a great environment. One of the top sales real estate agents that was a referral partner of mine, a guy by the name of Daniel Starr, used to go into his car and he would make the calls from his car because he found that was an environment that he could control, that no one was going to interrupt him, and he knew that he could step into that car, he could do his 60 or 70 calls for the day, and he wasn't going to get interrupted. So what's the ideal environment for you to be able to make the calls? And then you've got to understand, well what is the goal, right? What is the goal and the reward? As I mentioned last time, in terms of if you're going to have a habit, what's your reward? What's the reward for it? And to put this in perspective in terms of some of my clients that do this, and speaking to Richard the other day, and he made 10 calls, right? So 10 calls, and he wrote over $2 million worth of business out of it, right? So we divided the income by the 10 calls. So it worked out it was going to be something like $16,000 in revenue, upfront commission and trail in the first year. And of those 10 calls, so it's $1,600 per call in terms of the way we look out of it. So there's a big goal in terms of reward for you to do it. But what's the minimum reward? After you've made your calls, so maybe you do it 9 to 10 and you go to your favorite coffee shop after that to have that reward. So what are the rewards, either big or small? Some people say, look, if I do this for a month, I'm going to book a trip to Fiji. So what are the rewards that you're going to do? Because the structure is going to be really, really important. So next we look at the activities. All right, what are the activities that you are going to do in terms of, to be able to do this? So if we look at the activities and, what are those activities? So the people that have inquired with you that haven't done business with you, right? They're called your prospects. All right, so you're going to do your prospecting calls. We mentioned before you want to do some networking. All right, we want to do some networking. So we've got two networks. We've got your internal network, which is your BDMs, relationship managers, etc. And then we've got your external network, which is the most valuable, which is referral partners. And again, we want to call them and we want to see how we can add value. The best place to get introductions is from your clients. The other way is the people that you deal with in the process, the real estate agents, the conveyancers, accountants, etc. Right? So easy to find people to call that are in your current network. The next part in terms of we're looking at is in terms of your clients, right? So your existing clients are people that we're going to call, and whether you do an annual review, I know Desley does it every 6 months, on a lower level. And again, I've got a big annual review process where we've got sort of the three tiers in terms of bronze, gold and platinum, and each of those clients may get a different level of service based on where they are. But the minimum you want to do is pick up the phone, touch base, make sure their loans on the best rate, and that they're happy. And the aim with clients is really to delight them and add as much value as we possibly can. So the other people that we're going to call are obviously the hottest prospects, which is our pre-approval and our pre-approved clients, because we don't make money off them unless they actually find a property. So Friday is a great day to give these guys a call prior to the weekend, prompt them to go out shopping. So in terms of, there's just some of the activities that we can focus on in terms of when we are looking at doing this and we are looking at making our calls. In terms of if you want a tool, if you want a great tool into just comment pro below, so I can give you the tool in terms of that you can use, and I'll give you a sort of a peek at what it looks like. But in terms of your you're looking at you want to be able to track this, and you want to be able to set a goal, and you want to be able to track this on a daily basis. So you want to have a look at your number of prospect calls that you want to make during the week, number of pipeline client calls, so those clients that are sitting within the pipeline, your number of pre-approval calls, your existing calls, and then your referral partner calls. Then you can sort of track these numbers and see how you're going week to week, and you can see what the results are. And again, if you've got team members or brokers, or you're looking to outsource this to somebody, it's really a great way to track this, because as I said, the one activity that you can do is to pick up the phone and have a structure around it, right? So one, the activities are important in terms of actually doing the activity, but almost more important is actually the structure and how you structure this and how you have the discipline, because you know that sales is at the top line. This is the thing that's going to make you the profit. We know if we have a consistent and full pipeline, we can choose the types of clients that we want to work with. And again, as long as we've got sales coming in the top, we can solve any of the other problems, right? With the money that it provides, we can solve those problems. We can get additional staff, we can get support staff, we can get casual help, we can get people in to help us get the deals through the process. What the hardest part to help with is that initial relationship and doing the activities week in, week out that are going to ensure that you've got the most successful broking business there is. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's been another video from Ross at the $1 Billion Broker, and I'll talk to you next time.